This looks kind of cool, doesn't it? Because I got a fan over here. It's a little stuffy in my room right now. You might also notice a little something here. Um, I have ears. I I got really sick and tired of those sideburns. I didn't intend for them to be there anyway. They were uncomfortable and they looked like crap. So they went bye bye. Anyway, I've had a request from a friend to do this. It's actually going to be a series of videos. One thing, I have verified my account on YouTube, so I should be able to post videos longer than 15 minutes now, which that's awesome. And it will be helpful here because I have no idea how long some of these videos might take, but basically I'm going to be showing off my collection of blades, talking about them, and then showing some of how you might use them. Now, which means you will get to meet the sword back there in a little while. But basically I'm going to be kind of going from least impressive to most impressive in this series. So each weapon is going to get a video devoted to it. The knives, which I'm about to show here in a minute, they're going to get probably 2 videos apiece devoted to them, because the first one is going to be me sitting here at my desk and just showing them off and talking about them and so on and so forth, and then the second one, which will probably be later on down the line, will be me standing up kind of showing stuff off. I may actually do each one that way because that will kind of give me a chance maybe to rest up between standing up, because I get really energetic when I'm up on my feet and it can tire me if I'm doing it for too long. So this will give me a chance to sit down and relax between each one of those. So let's, without further ado, let's get started. So the first one is this. Some of you might be saying, that's not a knife, that's just a toy, right? Well, technically, no. This is the Executive Letter Opener Mark II, which, according to the wonderful land of the internet, is fiberglass-filled plastic, which is actually not the best thing to make this sort of weapon out of. Because the idea behind this is that, of course, it's called an executive letter opener because that makes it legal. Puts it in kind of a gray, shady area, kind of like calling knuckle dusters a paperweight. But what the idea behind this was it was actually developed, if my history on it is not mistaken, by the CIA for their agents to carry, specifically agents who were tasked with assassinations, because this thing can't be picked up by a metal detector, and it's so slender that you can literally hide it almost anywhere on your person. The idea was, a trained assassin could walk up and, put this through an eye, or, behind the ear, or even into the neck or something if it was sharpened up properly, which you need, I think you need, a whetstone or something to be able to sharpen this thing properly. Because, a regular knife sharpener, like one of the handheld knife sharpeners you just run over the blade, won't really work with this. It seems to at first, but it's not sharp at all. In fact, I don't honestly think you could get this thing sharp enough to cut. And that's actually my biggest problem with this design. I think what they were going for was that, they wanted it to look like something they could pass off as a letter opener or something like that, something harmless, so they wanted it to have a slight blade shape so that you could cut a letter open with it. But for actual use as a weapon, yeah, you could use this. I used to carry this in my pocket whenever I would go out, because it's lightweight. This thing is ridiculously lightweight. I can't even remember what the statistics on it are, but I think it's less than 6 ounces. This thing is ridiculously lightweight. Honestly, I probably just really over-exaggerated the weight right there, because this thing is stupidly lightweight. You can put it in a pocket and never even know that it's there, if you weren't the one who put it there. But yeah, it should be pointed out that this was before HEMA kind of overtook my training. I trained a lot in kenjutsu, and I also trained in various aspects of ninjutsu, which included the use of the kubatan, the striker, which is something that you kind of just hold in your hand like this, and it comes out at both top and bottom, and then you can use it to strike with in various different ways. So that was kind of why I carried this, because I knew that even though it wasn't like really sharp like steel would be, the point is still fairly fine. It's rounded, but it's still a small point. It's very narrow. And the principles of physics are the more force that is directed, the smaller the point is that the force is directed behind, the more that force is maximized. So you get a lot of force behind a very small point, and you do a lot of damage. So even if it wouldn't actually stab someone, which it might, the point is fairly fine. It might stab into them, but it would definitely break bone if you hit with it. So that was the reason why I would carry it as a self-defense weapon. But my problem with the design is this blade shape. This weapon would primarily be used as a puncturing weapon, not as a cutter. You can't sharpen this thing on the edges well enough to really cut. I mean, even the sharpest I've ever had it, I could just run it across my hand, and it doesn't really feel very comfortable, but I'm exerting a lot of pressure on my hand, and it's not cutting it at all. I mean, the camera won't pick it up, and in fact, it goes away really quickly, but all that it really does is just kind of leave a line, like a little white line on my hand that fades away almost instantly, so this thing will not cut. To use it as a weapon, either in self-defense or in assassination, you would have to use it as a puncturing weapon. I also question this, because this is obviously is a thumb groove. It's made on either side for you to put your fingers into, and likewise the curls on the side, you can wrap your finger around them like this. Sorry, like I said, the camera is still mirrored, and I still haven't gotten used to it. It still throws me off. But yeah, that is clearly made so that you can hold it like this. And this motion is fast, and it's forceful. But it does not give as much force as this motion does. And that motion isn't slow either. I mean, I can do it pretty fast like that. Almost not as fast as I can this, but still pretty fast. Sorry if this is shaking everything around. It's the problem with having a webcam hooked up to a laptop. It does that. But that's my question. That's my problem with this, is the overall design. Is that it's designed clearly to hold like this, and it's designed with a blade-like shape. Now, if this could actually be sharp enough to cut, that wouldn't be a problem. Like, for instance, Cold Steel sells, I think they call it a Nightshade series, which is kind of ironic. You'll find out why later. But theirs are made out of a really high-tech ceramic composite, which, just like these, it wouldn't be able to be detected by a metal detector. And even in their testing videos for it, they even show it cutting open letters, even though they don't even call it a letter opener, but they show it cutting open letters. So that's like their defense mechanism, just because. One second, I'm actually going to fix this. It may look awesome, but it's getting really annoying, so just give me 1 second. There. Hopefully that'll hold it back for a little bit. But yeah, and I had actually read before that ceramic can be sharper than steel. It's just, it doesn't have as fine an edge, so when it cuts, it tends to be kind of jagged as opposed to clean, but it is razor sharp, ceramic is. And they actually show them being tested on like real thick press board and stuff like that, and it'll just cut right through the middle of it. So yeah, those I can see. Those are really handy weapons along this line. They even make some that are in this general kind of shape, but again, you can actually cut with them, and they have a good piercing point. As opposed to this, which has a kind of, like I said, a rounded point, and you can't cut with the edge at all. So it may look sharp, but I've already shown you that it isn't. So this thing mostly, I think, would be used better as a striking tool to break bone. And I mean, if you hit in the right place, like the eye, or in that hollow behind the ear where it's really soft, or even at the base of the skull in the medulla, that would kill, probably. And I think there's also a soft spot under the jaw right in here somewhere that you can drive something through, but I don't know if this would make it, because in order to be lethal there, it has to go up through the bottom of the mouth, and then through the roof of the mouth, and into the brain, and I don't think this is quite long enough to do that. The blade length is just over 4 inches, the overall length is just under 8. So, I think they would have been better served to, honestly, to do something like an ice pick. If they wanted to make an assassination weapon out of this material rather than ceramic. Which I get, this material is a lot cheaper, it's just fiberglass filled plastic. It's cheap. But, like I said, I think they would have been better served to make something more along the lines of an ice pick rather than a knife. Give it a proper handle, but make it so that it's a handle with like a fairly, like some kind of guard here at the base that will keep your hand from sliding down on it, which that's a problem with this. It's so small that if you were to thrust like this, that would happen. I didn't do that myself. I'll tip the camera down so you can watch. See? That's not even a very forceful thrust, and I am holding it pretty tight. Okay, that time I didn't do it, but I can feel my hand slipping. And if you were to do it hard, and you were holding it the wrong way, like for instance like this, where your hand is kind of down over the guard, which is really easy to do given the shortness of the weapon, then your hand slides down over the blade. In order to do that properly, you would want to hold it more like this, so that the knife is actually almost sideways in your hand, so that those loops, those dips actually kind of cup your palm and pinky. And that way you can, do this without it sliding. But there's nothing to put your thumb on, and that's always a very comfortable thing. It actually helps provide more energy in a thrust, and it's because of the shape of it, it's extremely uncomfortable to hold it that way. You can do it like this, but it's more difficult, and it's still not very comfortable. This is the way this thing was clearly meant to be held. And it's just a stupid design, I think, for a weapon that's obviously meant to be a puncturing weapon. They should have made the blade not a blade, but a spike. Like maybe a trefoil or quatrefoil design, like 3 or 4-sided, like a triangle or a square, with a sharp point. Because trust me, I've had plastic toys before that I could stab myself with. The plastic can be very sharp. This isn't. And it's very hard to get that point to be sharp. I've tried. It's not easy, because of the shape of the weapon. I mean, technically, this is a diamond cross-section, which is a good design for a blade to be thrusting with, but only if the blade can be sharpened on the point. This, from my experience, this can't be. Not easily, at least. It takes a lot of work to get it sharp on the point. I think a spike would have served them better. A spike and a handle that's more comfortable to grip like this. Maybe something that you could grip either way, because if you had a spike, even this would be effective in puncturing, this kind of grip. But both ways. You'd want a handle that you could grip both ways, and that had, something there bigger than this. I mean, I understand they were going for, concealability and the ability to hide it anywhere, but you'd want something at least a little wider than this, so that it would cup the bottom of your hand if you were holding it in the ice pick grip, to stab someone with. But at the same time, that would be comfortable to hold like this, for this kind of movement, like you come up behind someone and grab them around the face, and this is for the medulla or behind the ear, and you just jab it in. This could be used from behind as well, grab them around and run it into the front of their throat, or into an eye or something like that, or you come in from the front and do the eye or the throat. There's a lot of different ways you could use this. I won't even have to stand up to demonstrate, because that's basically the only ways you could use this thing to actually maybe kill somebody, would be the eyes, that soft spot in the bottom of the throat. I mean, you could probably jab it into the larynx right in here, and that would work. I mean, this thing, like I said, it's not sharp on the point, but it's a small point, and you get enough force behind it, you're going to do damage. You can break bone with this thing. So if you jab it into the larynx, you could probably kill them. Although I do want to point out that having the larynx crushed is not instant death, like people think it is. Basically, they have to strangle to death at that point. So they're still alive, even if their larynx has been crushed. They're just kind of strangling. If they get rushed to a hospital or something, they could actually survive. They won't talk right ever again, but they could survive. There is a bone, the hyoid bone, somewhere right in here, which is, it's literally like a small floating piece of bone. And the first time I ever saw this on an anatomy chart, I was like, that is a. Why is that even there? I mean, it regulates breathing or something, I think. I mean, you can see how sharp this thing is. I'm using it to scratch an itch with. That's how intimidating this thing is. We've gone over 15 minutes too, so I guess we'll see if YouTube will let me post this. But the hyoid bone right in there, it's literally just a little piece of bone floating in the middle of your throat. The first time I ever saw it, I thought, if you broke that thing, I mean, actually shattered it, or even just knocked it loose, that thing goes floating around in your throat. If you shatter it, you've got little sharp shards of bone all in your throat, so that could be pretty lethal. But overall, this thing is less than lethal. I would call it a good self-defense weapon, because it is less than lethal. They're illegal to carry in pretty much anywhere, because they are considered a fixed blade knife. I don't think they should be, because, again, this thing, unless you hit in just the right spot, and you've trained yourself to be able to hit in that spot, even in like the middle of a fight where things are moving really quickly, this thing is not going to be super lethal. So yeah. But a good self-defense weapon, because like I said, you can break bone, you can hit pressure points with it, you can do enough damage and inflict enough pain to make an attacker flee. So, but yeah, that is the Executive Letter Opener Mark II. I don't know if you'll be able to read it here. It looks like not. The resolution is way too low. I might actually wait a minute. Yeah, there you go. You can see it really well like that, at that angle. I might actually try, I think I can up the resolution on this thing, so I might try that in the next video. But for now, see you all later.